story contains events that may not be suitable for all readers. Reader discretion is advised. Part 1. I swiped right on Tinder, and a match appeared. Her name was Emily, and she was stunning. Her profile picture was a selfie of her standing in front of a waterfall, and her bio said that she loved hiking and exploring new places. I messaged her, and we hit it off immediately. We chatted for a few days, and I learned that Emily was new to the area and didn't know many people. She seemed eager to make new friends, and I suggested that we meet up and go for a hike together. She agreed, and we set a date for the following weekend. On the day of our hike, I arrived at the trailhead early and waited for Emily. She arrived a few minutes later, and I was blown away by how beautiful she was in person. We set off on the trail, chatting and laughing as we walked. As we climbed higher up the mountain, Emily suggested that we take a shortcut to reach the summit faster. I agreed, and we veered off the main trail onto a narrow path that went through the trees. That's when things started to get strange. As we hiked, I began to feel a sense of unease. The woods were silent, except for the sound of our footsteps crunching on the leaves. Emily was quiet too, which was unusual for her. She had been talkative and bubbly before, but now she seemed distant and distracted. I tried to shake off the feeling and focus on the hike, but it was hard to ignore the nagging sense of dread that was creeping up on me. We reached the summit after a few hours of hiking, and the view was breathtaking. Emily and I stood at the edge of the cliff, looking out at the vista below. That's when Emily turned to me and said something that chilled me to the bone. "I've been waiting for this moment for a long time," she said, her eyes cold and distant. Part 2. I backed away from Emily, my heart pounding in my chest. Something was off about her, and I didn't like it one bit. "What are you talking about?" I asked, my voice shaking. Emily didn't answer. Instead, she lunged at me, her hands clawing at my face. I stumbled backward and fell, hitting my head on a rock. The last thing I remembered before blacking out was Emily's face, twisted in a feral snarl. When I woke up, I was lying on the ground, alone. My head was throbbing, and my vision was blurry. I tried to sit up, but I was too weak. I must have hit my head pretty hard. I lay there for what felt like hours, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Had Emily attacked me? Why? And where was she now? As the sun began to set, I knew I had to get help. I tried to stand up, but my legs were too wobbly. I stumbled and fell, hitting my head on a rock once again. This time, everything went dark. When I woke up again, it was dark outside. I could hear the sound of something moving in the bushes nearby, and I realized with horror that I wasn't alone. Emily was out there somewhere, and she wanted to hurt me. I tried to crawl away, but my body was weak and uncooperative. I was at Emily's mercy, and I didn't know how to defend myself. That's when I heard her voice, whispering my name. Come out. Come out. Wherever you are, she said, her voice laced with a sinister tone. I froze, my heart racing in my chest. Emily was close, and she sounded like she was enjoying this game of cat and mouse. I had to think of a way to get out of here before it was too late. I managed to crawl a few feet before I saw Emily's silhouette in the darkness. She was standing at the edge of the clearing, watching me with an eerie calmness. Her eyes glinted in the moonlight, and I could see that they were completely black. I realized then that Emily wasn't human. She was something else entirely. Something dark and malevolent. What are you? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Emily smiled, revealing rows of sharp teeth. I'm what you might call a monster, she said. And you're my prey. I tried to scramble away, but Emily was too fast. She leaped towards me, her claws extended, and I knew that this was it. I was going to die here, alone in the woods with a creature I had met on Tinder. But then, something strange happened. Emily stopped in mid-air, her body frozen. She let out a terrible shriek and then vanished, leaving behind nothing but the smell of sulfur. I lay there, panting and shaking, not knowing what had just happened. Had Emily been defeated by something or someone? Or had she simply decided to spare my life? Part 3. The next day, I made my way back to civilization, still in a daze from the events of the previous night. I went to the police station and reported what had happened, but they didn't believe me. They said that I had probably hit my head and imagined the whole thing. I knew what I had seen, though. Emily was real, and she was out there, waiting for her next victim. Over the next few weeks, I did everything I could to avoid thinking about Emily. I went back to work, spent time with my friends, and even went on a few more Tinder dates. But no matter what I did, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me, waiting for me. One night, as I was driving home from a friend's house, I saw her again. Emily was standing on the side of the road, her eyes glowing in the darkness. I swerved to avoid her, but when I looked back in my rearview mirror, she was gone. I knew then that I had to face Emily once and for all. I couldn't live my life in fear of her forever. I did some research and found out that Emily was a demon, a creature that preyed on humans through dating apps. She was known for luring men into the woods and then attacking them, draining their life force and leaving them for dead. Armed with this knowledge, I set out to find Emily. I didn't know how to defeat a demon, but I knew that I had to try. I went back to the woods where we had hiked, and I waited. It wasn't long before Emily appeared, her eyes blazing with malice. "You again," she said, her voice dripping with contempt. I stood my ground, trying to appear confident even though I was shaking inside. "I know what you are," I said, "and I'm not afraid of you anymore." Emily laughed, a sound that sent shivers down my spine. "You should be," she said. "I'm more powerful than you can imagine." I didn't respond. Instead, I reached into my backpack and pulled out a small bottle filled with holy water. I had read online that demons were vulnerable to holy water, and I was hoping that it would work. I splashed the water on Emily, and she let out an ear-piercing scream. Her skin began to sizzle, and I could see smoke rising from her body. But just as I thought I had one, Emily's body began to contort and twist. Her limbs grew longer and more slender, and her skin turned a sickly shade of green. Her eyes glowed brighter than ever, and her teeth became even sharper. She was transforming into something even more terrifying than before. I backed away, my heart pounding in my chest. I had no idea what to do next. Emily let out a guttural growl and charged towards me. I stumbled and fell to the ground, my hands shaking. But then, out of nowhere, a beam of bright light shot down from the sky and enveloped Emily. She screamed and thrashed, but the light was too powerful. It lifted her into the air and then vanished, taking Emily with it. I lay there for a few moments, trying to process what had just happened. Had I really just fought a demon and won? As I got to my feet, I saw a figure emerging from the trees. It was a man dressed in a white robe, and he was holding a staff made of pure crystal. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "I am an angel," the man said, "and I have been sent to protect you." I looked at him in disbelief. Angels were real? And they had been watching over me all this time? The angel smiled gently. "You have a purpose in this world," he said, "and it is not to be taken by the likes of Emily. You were meant for greater things." I didn't know what to say. I had never been religious, but something about the angel's words rang true. "Thank you," I said, my voice shaking. "Thank you for saving my life." The angel nodded. "But remember," he said, "there are other demons out there, other creatures that seek to do harm to humanity. You must be vigilant, always." I nodded, understanding. I knew that I couldn't go back to my old life, pretending that the supernatural didn't exist. I had seen too much, experienced too much. As the angel disappeared into the woods, I made a vow to myself. I would use my experience to help others, to fight against the darkness that threatened our world. And I would never, ever use Tinder again.